Have you ever noticed how the most successful people rarely broadcast their goals before achieving them? How they seem to materialize extraordinary results while others are still talking about what they plan to do someday? What if I told you this silence isn't just a personality trait? It's actually a strategic advantage that separates elite achievers from everyone else. Has this ever happened to you? You get excited about a new goal, maybe starting a business, writing a book, or transforming your health, and immediately tell everyone about it. You receive their congratulations and encouragement, but then, mysteriously, your motivation begins to evaporate. The energy you once had for taking action somehow disappears, replaced by an empty satisfaction that leads nowhere. What you're about to discover might surprise you. There's a hidden psychological mechanism at work when you prematurely share your ambitions. The very act of speaking about your dreams actually drains the vital energy needed to manifest them. It's as if our words become a substitute for the action required to bring our desires into reality. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. The elite achievers throughout history understood a profound truth that most people miss. Concentrated attention is the fundamental power that shapes reality. Think about it. Your focus is a finite resource. When that focus becomes dispersed through excessive talking, the vital energy required for manifestation becomes diluted and your effectiveness diminishes significantly. This isn't just philosophical speculation. Research has shown that when you talk about your goals, your brain experiences a premature sense of reward, as if you've already accomplished something, which actually reduces your drive to put in the real work. It's a neurological short circuit that substitutes the temporary high of sharing for the lasting satisfaction of achievement. Stay with me until the end, because we're going to explore why silence isn't just golden, it's powerful. The ability to maintain quiet confidence about your goals requires tremendous self-discipline, but it strengthens your character in ways that mere words never could. While others broadcast their intentions to the world, seeking validation and approval, truly disciplined individuals work quietly, building unstoppable momentum through consistent action rather than empty promises. The most successful people in every field, from business titans to world-class athletes, from groundbreaking artists to revolutionary thinkers, have mastered this elite code of silent execution. They understand that energy spent defending or explaining your vision represents a significant leak in your transformation process. If you're committed to becoming a silent achiever rather than just another talker, hit that subscribe button now. Join a community of action takers who understand that real success comes from doing the work behind the scenes. They build their empires in silence, allowing their achievements to speak for themselves when the time is right. Think about the last time you accomplished something significant. Did you announce it to the world beforehand? Or did you simply do the work until it was complete? Most of us have experienced both approaches, but only one consistently leads to extraordinary results. This quiet confidence that elite achievers cultivate requires tremendous self-control, especially in today's social media-driven world where sharing has become almost reflexive. But this discipline strengthens your character in profound ways that mere words never could. Those who master the art of strategic silence develop an inner strength that transcends the need for external validation, creating a foundation for achievement that others simply cannot access. Behind the scenes of every transformative success story, you'll find someone who understood this hidden truth. They recognize that the journey of meaningful accomplishment happens largely out of sight, in the quiet moments of persistent action that others never witness. This is where the real transformation happens, not in the spotlight of public declaration, but in the shadows of private dedication. What these silent achievers understand is that inner conviction manifests outwardly through tangible outcomes, not through ambitious proclamations. The evidence of your work will ultimately speak volumes more than any announcement ever could. When you consistently deliver results instead of promises, you create an irrefutable reality that no one can argue with. Your accomplishments become the ultimate testimony to your capabilities. This mindset shift represents a fundamental recalibration in how you approach any meaningful endeavor. Rather than seeking approval for what you might do someday, you channel that energy directly into execution. The revelations that emerge from this approach are profound. You discover that the same resources spent defending or explaining your vision could be invested in actually bringing it to life. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by examining the psychological impact of premature sharing. There's a fascinating phenomenon. Researchers have observed that explains exactly why early revelation can sabotage even the most promising endeavors. When you verbalize your intentions, your brain experiences a peculiar satisfaction, a false sense of progress that can significantly diminish your drive to put in the actual work. This psychological trap operates silently in the background of your decision-making, creating an illusion of advancement without the substance of achievement. The journey toward meaningful impact requires protecting your dreams during their vulnerable early stages. Much like a seed requires darkness to germinate properly before breaking through the soil. Write "silent builder" in the comments if you've ever noticed how your excitement for a goal mysteriously vanished after telling too many people about it. Psychologists have discovered a fascinating concept I like to call your manifestation battery. Think of your ambition as having a limited charge, a finite amount of mental and emotional energy, available to bring your vision to life. Every time you explain your plans to someone, every justification you offer, every excited description of what you intend to accomplish, each of these moments draws power from that battery. It's an invisible transaction happening beneath your conscious awareness, converting your implementation energy into communication energy. This revelation transforms how we understand the journey from idea to reality. The hidden truth most people never realize is that there's a direct correlation between how much you talk about your dreams and how likely you are to achieve them. It's almost like a universal law of manifestation that operates silently in the background of your decision-making process. Each time you verbalize your plans, you're actually spending precious mental currency that could be invested elsewhere. Behind the scenes of every great success story, whether in business, the arts, science, or personal transformation, you'll find someone who understood this power of silence. They recognized that the same energy used to talk about their goals could become fuel for meaningful action when properly channeled and protected. This mindset shift represents one of the most profound decisions available to anyone seeking extraordinary results. The most remarkable achievers throughout history share this common thread. They maintained strategic privacy around their vision during its development phase. This wasn't coincidence or mere personality preference. It was a deliberate approach based on understanding the mechanics of achievement. Their journey often appeared mysterious to outside observers precisely because they protected their creative process from premature exposure. This blueprint for success doesn't require special talents or resources. It's available to anyone willing to make the fundamental decision to redirect energy from explanation to execution. The impact of this single shift compounds dramatically over time, creating an exponential difference between those who talk about their ambitions and those who quietly build them into reality. What's particularly fascinating is how this pattern repeats across every domain of human endeavor. The most innovative companies maintain strict confidentiality around projects until launch. The most transformative artists create in private studios before exhibition. The most influential leaders develop their strategies away from public scrutiny before implementation. This isn't secretive behavior, it's strategic protection of creative momentum. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring how your dreams, especially in their nascent stages, are remarkably fragile. Just like seeds requiring darkness to germinate properly, your goals need protection from external criticism and doubt during their vulnerable early phases. The most profound ideas throughout history were particularly susceptible to withering away when exposed too soon. Drop Energy Guardian in the comments if you're committed to protecting your creative power by talking less and building more. When you first conceive a meaningful goal or vision, it exists in an incredibly delicate state. Think of it like a seedling just beginning to take root. It hasn't yet developed the resilience to withstand harsh conditions. During this fragile inception phase, your dream requires a protected environment where it can establish its foundation without interference. The transformation from idea to reality follows a natural sequence that can't be rushed or exposed prematurely. Throughout history, the most revolutionary concepts and innovations shared this same vulnerability during their early development. Thomas Edison's light bulb faced hundreds of failures before success. The Wright brothers worked in relative obscurity, while competitors with more publicity failed. Einstein developed relativity theory while working as a patent clerk, not as a celebrated academic. Behind the scenes, these breakthroughs were nurtured in protected environments until they were strong enough to withstand scrutiny. Ready to transform your approach to achievement? Subscribe now to access more powerful insights on the psychology of success that most people will never discover. This channel is for those who build while others talk. I've witnessed countless brilliant ideas wither away simply because they were shared too soon. The person received a sideways glance, a raised eyebrow, or heard someone say, "That sounds difficult," and suddenly their inner conviction began to crumble. This isn't weakness, it's human nature. We're social beings naturally attuned to the opinions of others, especially during the vulnerable early stages of our journey. When you prematurely expose your ambitions to the world, you're essentially digging up that seed before it has developed strong roots. The impact of this simple decision can be devastating. Even well-intentioned feedback can derail potential before it has a chance to establish the foundations necessary for growth. A casual "have you considered this obstacle?" from a friend might introduce doubt that wouldn't otherwise exist in your thinking. This revelation about the life cycle of meaningful achievement explains why those who consistently produce remarkable results share a common practice. They create a sanctuary for their ambitions, nurturing them in private until they've developed enough resilience to withstand external judgment. This intentional period of incubation isn't about secrecy, it's about strategic protection of something precious. The mindset shift from seeking immediate validation to protecting nascent potential represents one of the most powerful decisions available to anyone pursuing significant goals. It allows your vision to develop according to its own internal logic rather than in reaction to external opinions that fundamentally cannot comprehend what you see so clearly. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by examining what actually happens in your brain when you share your goals too early. Researchers have discovered a fascinating psychological phenomenon that explains exactly why premature revelation can sabotage even the most promising endeavors. There's a neurological process occurring beneath your awareness that creates a dangerous illusion of progress without any actual advancement. Type "protect my vision" in the comments if you've ever felt your enthusiasm for a project diminish after sharing it with others too soon. Psychologists call this fascinating phenomenon social reality. When you verbalize your intentions to others, your brain experiences a peculiar neurological response. It releases dopamine and creates a premature sense of accomplishment, as if you've already achieved your goal. This false satisfaction actually reduces your motivation to put in the real work necessary for success. It's a cognitive illusion that has derailed countless ambitious journeys before they truly began. The brain doesn't clearly distinguish between talking about an achievement and actually achieving it. Each time you receive acknowledgement or praise for your plans, your reward system gets activated, giving you a small but significant psychological payoff without any actual progress. This creates what I call satisfaction without substance, feeling good about something you haven't actually accomplished yet. This revelation transforms our understanding of the journey toward meaningful achievement. The most effective strategy is often the complete opposite of what feels natural. Instead of seeking validation through words, allow your results to become your voice. There's an undeniable authenticity that emerges when your achievements do the talking, a power that declarations of intent simply cannot match. Think about it. When someone accomplishes something truly remarkable, they rarely need to explain or justify it. The evidence stands before you, commanding immediate respect and recognition. There's a profound difference between someone who promises greatness and someone who demonstrates it. The former must constantly defend their potential. The latter simply points to their results. This mindset transformation isn't about becoming secretive or isolated. It's about making a strategic decision about where to invest your precious energy, in explanation or in execution. Behind the scenes of every significant breakthrough, you'll find this pattern of chosen focus. While conversations about potential swirled around them, the achievers simply continued building. The journey of transformation begins with this fundamental recalibration, moving from telling to doing. When you redirect the energy previously spent discussing your ambitions into actually advancing them, you create an entirely different trajectory for your success. Each small action builds momentum that eventually becomes unstoppable. What's particularly fascinating is the psychological impact of the quiet achiever who seems to emerge from nowhere. When you work consistently in silence, your progress remains invisible to others. Then, when you finally reveal what you've built, it creates a dramatic before and after contrast that's absolutely stunning to witness. The element of surprise becomes your greatest ally in capturing attention and respect. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring how people are naturally drawn to what appears to be sudden, dramatic transformation. They don't see the hundreds of hours of dedicated practice, the failed attempts, or the incremental improvements. They see only the finished masterpiece. And its impact is magnified precisely because they weren't privy to the process. Write results over words in the comments if you're ready to let your achievements speak louder than your announcements. Behind the scenes of every overnight success is usually years of dedicated, unannounced effort. This pattern repeats across every domain: business, art, fitness, relationships, anywhere meaningful results are achieved. The quiet worker doesn't seek attention during the building phase, but commands it naturally when the work is complete. This creates a powerful psychological effect that transforms how others perceive both you and your achievements. Think about the last time you witnessed someone reveal a remarkable transformation seemingly out of nowhere. Perhaps a friend who suddenly launched a successful business, an acquaintance who completely transformed their health, or an artist who emerged with an extraordinary body of work. The impact was likely magnified precisely because you didn't witness their daily struggles, setbacks, and incremental progress. This element of surprise creates what psychologists call a revelation moment, a dramatic before and after contrast that captivates attention in a way that gradual exposure never could. The human mind is naturally drawn to these apparent quantum leaps, these transformations that seem to materialize without visible process. It's why product launches surrounded by secrecy generate more excitement than those with lengthy pre-announcements. What's happening beneath the surface of this journey is a fascinating mindset shift that separates elite performers from everyone else. While others are sharing progress updates to receive validation at each step, the quiet achiever is channeling that same energy directly into execution. They understand that the anticipation of eventually revealing their completed work becomes fuel for persistence during difficult moments. The irony is that patience in disclosure often accelerates progress in development. By protecting your vision during its vulnerable growth phases, you create an environment where momentum can build uninterrupted by external opinions or premature judgment. This strategic silence becomes a competitive advantage that compounds over time. Consider how this pattern manifests in nature. A bamboo plant can appear dormant for years while developing an extensive root system underground. Then suddenly, it can grow several feet in just weeks. To outside observers, this growth seems miraculous, but it's simply the visible manifestation of invisible preparation. Your achievement follows this same natural law. What appears sudden to others is actually the culmination of consistent hidden effort. This approach creates a unique advantage that those constantly seeking validation can never access. There's a special kind of confidence that emerges when you've been quietly building something exceptional while others have been merely talking about their intentions. That quiet knowing becomes an unshakable foundation for further achievement. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring why the vision in your heart was given specifically to you, not to others. This isn't just inspirational speak. It's a practical reality with powerful implications for how we manifest our deepest aspirations and why others often cannot fully comprehend what drives you. Type invisible growth in the comments if you recognize how the most significant progress often happens beneath the surface, invisible to others until it's fully formed. Consider how this mindset shift might transform your own journey. What if instead of announcing your intentions to the world, you channeled that same energy directly into execution? What if you allowed the anticipation of revealing your completed work to fuel your persistence during difficult moments? This approach creates a powerful ecosystem for achievement, where your focus remains undiluted by external opinions or premature judgment. Elite performers across every domain have discovered this secret pathway to extraordinary results. They've learned to harness the natural excitement that comes with envisioning the moment of revelation, that future point when they'll finally unveil what they've been building in silence. This anticipation becomes an internal fuel source that powers them through inevitable challenges, setbacks, and moments of doubt. The transformation begins with a fundamental recalibration of where you seek your motivation. Rather than drawing energy from external validation, the temporary high of others' excitement about your plans, you tap into the deeper, more sustainable power of creation itself. This intrinsic motivation becomes self-reinforcing, creating a virtuous cycle where progress generates more energy for further progress. What's particularly fascinating is that patience in disclosure doesn't slow your journey, it actually accelerates it. The true masters have discovered that strategic restraint in revealing their work speeds up the development process by eliminating distractions and preserving creative momentum. When you're not constantly stopping to explain, defend, or showcase your partial progress, you maintain an uninterrupted flow state that dramatically enhances your effectiveness. This hidden catalyst for achievement operates beneath the surface of conscious awareness. Every moment you spend justifying your approach or defending your vision to others represents energy diverted from actual creation. By eliminating these interruptions, you create a sanctuary for focused execution, where your idea can develop according to its own internal logic, rather than in response to external input that might derail its unique evolution. Behind the scenes of innovation, this pattern repeats. Consistently, the most revolutionary products, groundbreaking artistic works, and transformative businesses were typically developed in protected environments until they reached a level of completion that could withstand scrutiny. This wasn't coincidence. It was strategic protection of creative momentum during vulnerable developmental phases. This approach creates what psychologists call implementation intention, a powerful mental state where your commitment becomes so focused on execution that distraction and doubt find no entry point. Your mind shifts from questioning whether you'll accomplish your goal to simply determining how you'll overcome each obstacle on the path to inevitable completion. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring a profound truth that many never fully grasp. The vision in your heart was given specifically to you, not to others. The combination of your experiences, intuitions, and insights creates a viewpoint that no one else on earth shares. Completely. This explains why others often cannot fully comprehend what drives you or see the complete picture that's so clear in your mind. Type Momentum Guardian in the comments if you recognize how protecting your creative process from premature exposure can actually accelerate your progress rather than slow it down. Consider one of the most profound revelations that transformed my own approach to achievement. The vision in your heart was given specifically to you, not to others. This isn't just motivational speak. It's a practical reality with powerful implications for how we manifest our deepest aspirations. Your mind is like a unique dimension of consciousness where possibilities germinate before manifesting in physical reality. The combination of your experiences, intuitions, and insights creates a viewpoint that no one else on earth shares completely. When a vision appears in your mind, it comes tailored specifically to your understanding, your capabilities, and your purpose. It speaks a language that resonates perfectly with your soul. This is precisely why others often cannot fully comprehend what drives you, or see the complete picture that's so clear to your inner eye. Think about it. Have you ever tried to explain an exciting idea to someone only to watch their eyes glaze over with confusion or disinterest? This wasn't because your vision lacked merit. It was because they fundamentally couldn't access the full context that makes it so compelling to you. Their perspective is inevitably filtered through their own experiences, limitations, and beliefs. This creates a fascinating dynamic that few people recognize. When others offer opinions about the feasibility or value of your vision, they're not actually evaluating your dream. They're evaluating their interpretation of it, which is fundamentally limited. When they say, "That won't work," or "That's too difficult," they're really saying, "I can't see how that would work through my limited lens of understanding." The journey of transformation often requires this understanding that your unique perception creates possibilities others simply cannot see. Throughout history, the most revolutionary breakthroughs came from individuals who recognized something no one else could perceive. They didn't allow others' inability to see their vision to diminish their conviction in its potential. When you prematurely expose your vision to external judgment, you're essentially asking someone to evaluate a blueprint they can't fully read. This awareness leads to a revolutionary practice that few master, the deliberate cultivation of strategic silence. Like any valuable skill, the ability to work quietly towards significant goals without announcing your intentions requires consistent practice. In today's world of constant sharing and social media broadcasting, this capacity for meaningful silence has become even more rare and therefore even more valuable. Each time you feel the pull to announce your plans and resist it, you strengthen this muscle. Each time you redirect that energy into actual progress rather than explanation, you accelerate your journey. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring how this deliberate restraint ultimately leads to greater recognition than constant announcement ever could. When you finally do reveal your work, it arrives fully formed, polished by the silence that protected its development, commanding attention through its completeness rather than its promise. Write unique vision in the comments if you've experienced how others often can't fully understand your ideas simply because they don't share your unique perspective and life experiences. What begins as a conscious effort eventually transforms into a natural state of being, a fundamental shift in how you approach creation itself. In today's world of instant gratification and constant social sharing, the discipline of strategic silence has become increasingly rare and therefore increasingly valuable. Think of it as a hidden superpower that few recognize, but those who master it gain an extraordinary advantage. Each time you feel the intense pull to announce your plans, to post about your new business idea, to tell friends about your fitness journey before it's begun, to share your creative project in its infancy, and instead redirect that impulse into tangible progress, you strengthen a powerful mental muscle. This intentional restraint isn't about hiding or secrecy for its own sake. It's about creating a protected environment where your vision can flourish according to its own timeline. The transformation that occurs through this practice is profound. You'll begin to notice a shift in how you approach your ambitions, less concern about how they're perceived by others, and more focus on their actual development. This internal alignment creates a powerful ecosystem for achievement where your energy flows unimpeded toward manifestation rather than being diverted into premature explanation or defense. Think of this practice as removing friction from your creative process. Every time you pause to explain your approach, defend your methods, or justify your vision to someone who fundamentally cannot see what you see, you're introducing resistance into your journey. By eliminating these interruptions, you create a direct channel between your intention and your execution, a pathway of pure momentum. Behind the scenes of this approach is a fascinating psychological mechanism. When you commit fully to execution without seeking the temporary high of external validation, you create what psychologists call implementation intention, a mental state where your focus becomes so singular that distractions naturally fall away. Your mind shifts from questioning whether you'll accomplish your goal to simply determining how you'll overcome each obstacle along the path. This redirection of energy creates a compound effect that accelerates your progress exponentially over time. While others are spending precious mental and emotional resources managing perceptions and seeking approval, you're channeling that same energy directly into advancement. The gap between your results and theirs widens dramatically with each passing day, not through greater talent or resources, but through this fundamental difference in focus. The irony is that this practice of deliberate restraint ultimately leads to greater recognition than constant announcement ever could. When you finally do reveal your work, it arrives fully formed, polished by the silence that protected its development, commanding attention through its completeness rather than its promise. The impact of this revelation is magnified precisely because it arrives without the dilution of premature exposure. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring the surprising relationship between silence and mystery, and how strategic ambiguity creates a powerful advantage in any creative endeavor. When you consistently produce valuable results without announcing them beforehand, people naturally begin to gravitate toward your leadership and ideas in a way that deliberate self-promotion could never achieve. Write energy redirector in the comments if you're committed to channeling your excitement about goals directly into action rather than talking about them prematurely. There's a fascinating psychological dimension to this approach that explains why it works so effectively across different personality types and endeavors. In environments where results alone determine success, think professional sports, scientific research, or high-stakes business, a fundamental truth becomes undeniable. Results are the only currency that cannot be devalued by opinion. This reality creates a fascinating dividing line between those who succeed and those who don't. When you present tangible outcomes, whether it's revenue growth, weight loss, or a completed project, you create an irrefutable reality that transcends debate. Someone might argue with your approach, your philosophy, or your methods, but they cannot dispute the evidence standing right in front of them. This is precisely why the focus on manifestation through action rather than declaration is so powerful. The journey of transformation that occurs when you shift from explaining to executing is profound. While theories and plans can be endlessly debated, actual achievements immediately end those conversations. The completion of a difficult goal creates a new baseline reality that no amount of skepticism can erase. There's something deeply liberating about this realization. It means you don't need to convince anyone of your potential. You simply need to demonstrate it. This mindset shift eliminates countless hours of unnecessary explanation and justification. Behind every great achievement lies this hidden catalyst, the redirection of explanatory energy into productive action. The revelation that transformed my approach to goal setting was understanding that discussing your plans repeatedly creates a dangerous psychological trap. Each time you talk about what you intend to do, your brain experiences a small dose of satisfaction, as if you've already made progress. This momentary feeling of accomplishment provides just enough reward to temporarily satisfy your ambition. You receive the validation and recognition now, before you've earned it through actual results. This premature reward short-circuits your motivation system, creating what I call satisfaction without substance, feeling good about accomplishments that exist only in conversation. Each discussion about your future plans drains a small but significant portion of the determination needed to actually realize them. Your finite reservoir of motivation and focus leaks through these seemingly innocent discussions. The most successful individuals have developed an almost intuitive awareness of this dynamic. They guard their determination jealously, investing it entirely in execution rather than explanation. This brings us to a crucial distinction in how we approach any meaningful endeavor: the difference between identity-based motivation and validation-seeking behavior. Identity-based motivation creates an internal compass that guides your actions regardless of external validation, while validation-seeking behavior constantly looks outside for approval before taking the next step. This distinction reveals why some people consistently achieve, while others remain perpetually in the planning phase. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by examining a striking pattern that emerges when we study history's greatest innovators, creators, and achievers. From Edison to Einstein, from Jobs to Bezos, these individuals shared a common approach. They worked quietly, often in relative obscurity, until their creation was complete. They understood intuitively what modern psychology has only recently confirmed. Drop results speak in the comments if you've experienced how tangible achievements immediately silence skeptics in a way that no amount of explanation ever could. consider the profound transformation that occurs when you shift from theoretical discussion to tangible demonstration. While someone can always argue with your ideas, they cannot argue with your results. This fundamental truth creates a liberation that few ever fully experience: the freedom from needing to convince others of your potential. Instead, you simply embody it through consistent action, allowing the evidence to speak on your behalf. Think about how this plays out in real-world scenarios. When someone questions your business concept, responding with actual revenue is infinitely more powerful than theoretical explanations. When someone doubts your creative vision, presenting the finished work eliminates all debate instantly. When someone challenges your ability to transform any area of life, demonstrated change renders their skepticism irrelevant. The revelation that changed my entire approach to handling criticism was recognizing this fundamental principle. The most effective response to doubt has always been demonstrable results, not persuasive words. This insight liberates you from the exhausting cycle of defending, explaining, and justifying your choices to those who haven't earned the right to an opinion through their own achievement. Behind the scenes of every significant breakthrough, you'll find this same pattern of letting results answer critics. The most innovative creators throughout history rarely spent energy defending their vision against skeptics. They simply continued creating until their work spoke for itself. This approach represents not stubborn ignorance of feedback, but strategic allocation of your most precious resource: focused attention. This understanding leads directly to one of the most profound insights about human psychology. For many people, talk becomes a comfortable substitute for action. Discussing plans creates an illusion of progress without requiring the discomfort, uncertainty, and effort of actual execution. This false comfort becomes a dangerous trap that prevents genuine achievement, often without the person even realizing what's happening. The psychology behind this pattern is fascinating. Conversation about goals activates reward pathways in the brain similar to those triggered by actual accomplishment, creating temporary satisfaction without meaningful advancement. Over time, this becomes an unconscious avoidance mechanism, a way to experience the psychological benefits of ambition without the demands of manifestation. Many people spend years, sometimes entire lifetimes, talking about the same goals without advancing because words have replaced meaningful action in their motivation system. They discuss the book they'll write, the business they'll start, or the transformation they'll undergo, with genuine passion and conviction. Yet that passion never translates into consistent execution because the discussion itself has become the primary reward. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring how many people get addicted to the temporary neurochemical high from discussing their plans. This subtle hijacking of your motivation system explains why so many get stuck in endless planning without execution. They receive the brain's reward simply from talking about their goals, without doing the difficult work of implementation. Type action over words in the comments if you're ready to break free from the cycle of talking about your goals and commit to the path of silent achievement instead. Modern neuroscience has revealed something fascinating about our brains that explains why so many ambitious plans never materialize. When you talk about your goals, especially with enthusiasm and to people who respond positively, your brain releases dopamine, the same neurotransmitter associated with achievement and satisfaction. This creates what I call satisfaction without substance, a neurochemical reward for something that exists only in conversation. Think about the last time you excitedly shared a new goal with friends or family. Remember that warm glow of anticipation, that sense of forward momentum just from describing what you intended to do. That feeling isn't coincidental. It's your brain mistakenly checking the accomplishment box prematurely. The psychological satisfaction you receive from discussing your ambitions creates an illusion of progress that can be dangerously misleading. This revelation transforms our understanding of why motivation seems to mysteriously evaporate after we share our plans. Your brain, having already received its neurochemical reward, no longer feels the same urgent drive to pursue the actual work. Why push through the difficult parts of execution when you've already experienced the psychological payoff? This subtle hijacking of your motivation system explains why so many people remain perpetually stuck in the planning phase. The hidden truth is that your reservoir of motivation isn't infinite. It's a precious, limited resource that leaks through these seemingly innocent discussions. Each time you explain your vision, defend your approach, or describe your plans in detail, you're spending finite psychological currency that could have been invested directly in creation. This invisible transaction happens beneath your conscious awareness, converting implementation energy into communication energy. Elite performers have developed an almost intuitive understanding of this dynamic. They guard their determination jealously, investing it entirely in execution rather than explanation. They recognize that true satisfaction comes only from actual achievement, not from talking about potential achievement. This mindset shift represents one of the most profound decisions available to anyone seeking meaningful impact. The transformation begins when you catch yourself in this trap, when you notice the urge to share your plans prematurely and instead redirect that energy into tangible progress, however small. This doesn't require dramatic changes or announcements. It simply means becoming aware of where your precious focus is being directed and making a conscious decision to invest it in what truly matters. Advancement rather than announcement. Behind the scenes of every remarkable achievement is this same pattern of chosen focus. While endless conversations about potential swirled around them, the achievers simply continued building. They understood that the journey from intention to reality requires this fundamental recalibration, moving from temporary neurological satisfaction to the deeper, more sustainable fulfillment that comes only from actual creation. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring what happens in environments where results alone determine success. Think about contexts like professional sports, scientific research, or high-stakes business, areas where what you accomplish matters infinitely more than what you claim you'll accomplish. In these arenas, a fundamental truth becomes undeniable. Results are the only currency that cannot be devalued by opinion. Share dopamine trap in the comments if you've experienced the false satisfaction that comes from talking about your goals instead of working on them. When we study history's greatest innovators, creators, and achievers, a striking pattern emerges that reinforces everything we've discussed. From Edison to Einstein, from Jobs to Bezos, these individuals shared a common approach to manifestation. They worked quietly, often in relative obscurity, until their creation was complete. They understood intuitively what modern psychology has only recently confirmed, that premature exposure of work invites interference that hampers progress. Consider the revelation that many of humanity's most significant breakthroughs were developed away from public scrutiny. The Wright brothers perfected flight, while competitors with more publicity failed. Einstein developed relativity theory while working as a patent clerk, not as a celebrated academic. Apple's most revolutionary products were developed under extreme secrecy. This pattern repeats across domains because it reflects a fundamental truth about the creative process. The journey of transformation often requires this protective silence. True creators understand that their most vulnerable stage is during development, when the vision is clear in their mind, but not yet manifested in reality. During this critical phase, external input often serves not to improve the work, but to dilute its essence or redirect its purpose. By working behind closed doors, they preserve the integrity of their original insight. This isn't about arrogance or isolation. It's about maintaining the purity of your creative vision during its formative stages. Just as a photographer doesn't invite an audience into the darkroom while images are developing, the wise creator doesn't expose their vision to scrutiny during its formation. The power emerges precisely because of this protected incubation. Think of your dream as precisely analogous to a seed developing underground. In nature, this process follows an immutable sequence. The seed requires darkness, moisture, and protection during its initial growth phase. The most critical developmental stages happen completely invisible to outside observers. What would happen if you dug up a seed each day to check on its progress, or to show others how it was doing? The obvious answer is that you would kill it. Yet this is exactly what we do to our dreams when we expose them prematurely to external judgment. We interrupt the natural protected sequence of development that would have led to their successful emergence. The most successful creators understand this principle. Intuitively, they recognize that meaningful goals require precisely this kind of protected development before public revelation. This hidden phase of growth explains why so many seemingly overnight successes shock people with their apparent suddenness. Just like the plant that finally breaks through the soil after extensive underground development, these achievements emerge fully formed precisely because they were protected during their critical formative stages. What appears to others as a sudden breakthrough is actually the result of a disciplined commitment to invisible growth. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by examining what actually happens in your brain when you talk about your plans too early and the profound psychological shift that occurs in that moment. There's a fascinating neurochemical dimension to this dynamic that few people recognize, but that explains exactly why premature revelation can sabotage even the most promising endeavors. Type hidden development in the comments if you recognize how the most significant growth often happens completely out of sight, invisible to outside observers until it's ready to emerge. What's particularly fascinating is the neurochemical dimension of this dynamic. Modern neuroscience has revealed that talking about your plans triggers the same reward pathways in your brain as actually accomplishing them. When you discuss a goal and receive positive feedback, your brain releases dopamine, the same neurotransmitter associated with achievement and satisfaction. This temporary high creates an illusion of progress that can become psychologically addictive. Think about it. Your brain doesn't clearly distinguish between talking about running a marathon and actually completing one. Both activities trigger similar reward circuits, but one requires months of disciplined training, while the other takes just minutes of conversation. This neurological short circuit explains why so many people get stuck in an endless loop of planning without execution. They're unconsciously choosing the path of least resistance to the same neurochemical reward. This subtle hijacking of your motivation system is happening beneath your conscious awareness. You might genuinely believe you're building momentum by discussing your plans, completely unaware that you're actually depleting the very drive necessary to manifest them. The dopamine had already arrived. Why push through the difficult parts when your brain has already received its reward? I noticed this pattern in myself years ago. I'd enthusiastically share ideas for new projects, bask in the approval and excitement of others, and then mysteriously lose interest in actually doing the work. The revelation that transformed my approach was recognizing this trap for what it is, a mindset illusion that feels productive while actually undermining progress. Breaking this cycle requires a fundamental recalibration of your reward system. Rather than seeking That temporary neurochemical high from discussion, you must learn to derive your satisfaction solely from actual progress. This shift doesn't happen overnight. It's a deliberate practice that transforms your entire relationship with achievement itself. This is why the journey from endless talking to consistent doing represents one of the most significant thresholds in personal transformation. It requires becoming aware of how your brain's reward system has been hijacked and making a conscious decision to redirect your focus toward tangible creation instead of premature gratification. The most remarkable achievers throughout history share this common trait. They've mastered the ability to delay gratification, to resist the temporary high of talking about their vision in favor of the deeper, more sustainable satisfaction that comes from manifesting it. They understand that the momentary discomfort of working without recognition eventually yields rewards that far exceed the shallow in pleasure of premature discussion. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring a sobering reality that many never fully grasp. When all is said and done, the world remembers what you did, not what you said you would do. Look through the pages of history, and you'll find they're filled with accounts of accomplishments, not intentions. No matter how eloquently someone described their plans, legacy is built exclusively on what was actually completed. Type reward recalibration in the comments if you're ready to train your brain to find satisfaction in actual progress rather than just talking about your plans. This revelation brings us to a sobering reality that many never fully grasp. When all is said and done, the world remembers what you did, not what you said you would do. Look through the pages of history, and you'll find they're filled with accounts of accomplishments, not intentions. No matter how eloquently someone described their plans or how passionately they shared their vision, legacy is built exclusively on what was actually completed. This truth can be both challenging and liberating. It challenges us to honestly assess where we're investing our energy, in explanation or execution. It liberates us from the pressure of having to convince others of our potential. The historical record doesn't preserve the most persuasive promises. It preserves those who delivered tangible contributions that couldn't be denied. Think about the figures who have truly shaped human history. What do we remember about them? Not their announcements of what they intended to do, but the innovations, creations, and transformations they actually brought into existence. The gap between stated intentions and actual execution defines many unsuccessful lives, people who spoke with conviction about their plans but never translated those words into reality. This principle extends beyond how others perceive you to how you experience your own journey. There's a profound inner satisfaction that comes only from actual achievement, a sense of congruence between your vision and your reality that no amount of discussion can replicate. This authentic alignment becomes the foundation for something even more valuable: genuine authority. The most fascinating aspect of real influence is that it emerges naturally from demonstrated capability, not from theoretical knowledge or persuasive speech. When you consistently deliver results in any domain, people naturally respect your perspective without requiring elaborate justification. Your track record speaks volumes that no explanation could match. Consider the difference between someone who repeatedly tells others about their expertise and someone who simply demonstrates it through consistent performance. The first must constantly convince people of their value. The second has created evidence that argues on their behalf. This distinction reveals the hidden pathway to true authority, one paved with results rather than rhetoric. Behind the scenes of every respected voice in any field, you'll find this same pattern. Their influence wasn't granted because they claimed to know. It was earned because they repeatedly showed they could deliver. This is why true masters emphasize manifestation as the ultimate evidence of understanding. They recognize that your ability to produce tangible outcomes represents your true comprehension of universal principles. This transformation from explanation-based to results-based credibility represents one of the most powerful shifts available to anyone seeking meaningful impact. It eliminates the exhausting need to constantly justify your approach or defend your methods. Instead, your outcomes create a foundation of respect that speaks for itself. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring another fascinating revelation. Even when you do share your process, the details quickly fade from memory, while the achievement itself remains crystal clear. Think about any significant accomplishment you admire. Do you remember the creator's explanation of how they did it, or just the impressive end result? Type "legacy builder" in the comments if you recognize that history remembers what people did, not what they said they would do someday. The fascinating dichotomy between explanation and execution reveals another profound truth about authority and influence. True authority isn't granted, it's earned through demonstrated capability. When you consistently deliver remarkable results in any domain, people naturally defer to your perspective without requiring elaborate justification. This isn't about position or title. It's about the undeniable evidence you've created through consistent performance. Consider how this plays out in real-world scenarios. When Steve Jobs introduced revolutionary products, his presentations were masterful. But today, we remember the innovations themselves, not the explanations of their development. When artists create transformative work, their interviews about technique might be fascinating, but it's the art itself that endures in cultural memory. The impact of your work outlasts any narrative you might construct around it. This revelation should fundamentally shift how we approach our own journey of creation. Knowing that explanations inevitably fade while results persist, we can redirect our energy toward what truly matters, the tangible manifestation of our vision rather than the story we tell about it. This mindset transformation liberates us from the burden of perfect articulation and focuses us instead on perfect execution. Your ability to produce tangible outcomes represents your true level of understanding. This is why the transformation from explanation-based to results-based credibility represents one of the most powerful shifts available in any journey toward mastery. It eliminates the exhausting need to constantly justify your approach or defend your methods. Instead, your outcomes create a foundation of respect that speaks for itself. But there's another more uncomfortable truth that explains why premature sharing can be actively harmful rather than merely inefficient. This hidden reality contradicts much of what we're taught about human interaction, but aligns perfectly with what many of us have experienced. People envy more than they support. The psychology behind this is fascinating. When you share ambitious goals, you unintentionally hold a mirror to others that reflects their own unfulfilled potential. Your excitement about climbing a mountain reminds them of the hills they never attempted. Your commitment to writing a book highlights the ideas they never developed. Your dedication to transformation emphasizes their acceptance of the status quo. This mirror effect often triggers a subconscious defensive reaction. Rather than confronting their own choices, many people instinctively attempt to reduce the discomfort by diminishing your ambitions. This rarely manifests as outright discouragement. It's usually much more subtle: a raised eyebrow, a realistic concern, a reminder of past failures, or even excessive praise that satisfies you prematurely. What makes this dynamic particularly insidious is that it often comes from those closest to you: friends, family, colleagues, people who consciously want the best for you, but unconsciously react to the implicit challenge your ambition presents to their choices. This isn't malicious, it's a natural. psychological response to cognitive dissonance. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring how understanding this aspect of human nature provides another compelling reason for strategic silence. By keeping your ambitions private during their vulnerable developmental stage, you protect them from this subtle sabotage and create a sanctuary where your vision can grow according to its own internal logic. Write mirror effect in the comments if you've noticed how sharing your excitement about a goal sometimes triggers oddly discouraging responses from people who should be supportive. The boundary between vision and manifestation reveals a deeper truth about human interaction that many discover only through painful experience. Every time you announce your intentions to others, you're not just sharing information, you're creating an opening for their energy to affect your mindset. This exposure isn't neutral. It actively makes your goals vulnerable to the doubts, fears, and limiting beliefs of those around you. This vulnerability isn't about emotional fragility, it's about energetic influence. Our consciousness is permeable. We absorb the thought patterns we're regularly exposed to. When you share your nascent vision with 10 people, you're essentially inviting 10 different energetic influences into your creative space. Even if only 2 respond with subtle doubt, that negativity now has a pathway into your consciousness during the most vulnerable phase of creation. Even when you eventually do share your process after achieving success, the fascinating truth is that the details quickly fade from memory while the achievement itself remains crystal clear. Think about any significant accomplishment you admire. Do you remember the creator's explanation of how they did it, or just the impressive end result? This pattern repeats consistently across every domain of human endeavor. The impact of your work outlasts any narrative you might construct around it. When Steve Jobs introduced revolutionary products, his presentations were masterful. But today we remember the innovations themselves, not the explanations of their development. When athletes break records, we remember their triumph, not their training regimen. When businesses disrupt industries, we remember their impact, not their strategic planning sessions. The evidence of your creation speaks louder and longer than any story surrounding it. This revelation leads us to an uncomfortable truth about human nature, one that explains why premature sharing can be actively harmful rather than merely inefficient. When you share ambitious goals, you unintentionally hold a mirror to others that reflects their own unfulfilled potential. Your excitement about starting a business reminds them of the ideas they never pursued. Your dedication to fitness highlights the health habits they've neglected. Your creative project emphasizes the expression they've suppressed. This mirror effect often triggers a subconscious defensive reaction. Rather than confronting their own choices, many people instinctively attempt to reduce their discomfort by diminishing your ambitions. This rarely manifests as outright discouragement. It's usually much more subtle: a raised eyebrow, a realistic concern, a reminder of obstacles, or even excessive praise that satisfies you prematurely. What makes this dynamic particularly challenging is that it often comes from those closest to you, people who consciously want the best for you, but unconsciously react to the implicit challenge your ambition presents to their choices. Understanding this aspect of human nature provides another compelling reason for strategic silence. By keeping your ambitions private during their vulnerable developmental stage, you protect them from this subtle sabotage. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring the profound insight about the relationship between internal clarity and external influence. Specifically, how the boundaries you establish around your creative process directly impact its integrity and power, and why protecting your vision isn't selfish, it's strategic. type Energy Guardian in the comments if you've experienced how protecting your dreams from premature exposure helps preserve the power needed to actually achieve them. The revelation that transformed my own approach to achievement was recognizing that protecting your vision isn't selfish, it's strategic. It's the difference between a gardener who exposes delicate seedlings to harsh elements and one who creates the optimal environment for growth before transplanting. This boundary setting represents a higher form of responsibility toward the potential you've been entrusted with. Every time you announce your intentions to others, you're creating an energetic pathway for their thoughts and beliefs to influence yours. This isn't metaphysical speculation. It's practical psychology. Our minds are remarkably permeable, especially to the opinions of those we respect or care about. Even subtle reactions, a slight frown, a momentary hesitation, a well-intentioned concern, can penetrate your consciousness during the vulnerable early stages of creation. Think of your dream as precisely analogous to a seed developing underground. In nature, this process follows an immutable sequence. The seed requires darkness, moisture, and protection during its initial growth phase. The most critical developmental stages, when the first roots establish themselves and the embryonic plant begins to form, happen completely invisible to outside observers. What would happen if you dug up a seed each day to check on its progress or to show others how it was doing? The obvious answer is that you would kill it. Yet this is exactly what we do to our dreams when we expose them prematurely to external judgment. We interrupt the natural protected sequence of development that would have led to their successful emergence. This understanding changes everything about how we approach meaningful creation. The most successful creators I've studied understand this principle intuitively. They recognize that significant goals require precisely this kind of protected development before public revelation. They create a sanctuary around their vision during its vulnerable early stages, not out of insecurity, but out of respect for the natural sequence of manifestation. This hidden phase of growth explains why so many seemingly overnight successes shock people with their apparent suddenness. Just like the plant that finally breaks through the soil after extensive underground development, these achievements emerge fully formed precisely because they were protected during their critical formative stages. What appears to others as a sudden breakthrough is actually the result of a disciplined commitment to invisible growth. By respecting this natural sequence, rather than forcing premature exposure, you align yourself with fundamental principles of creation that transcend any specific domain or endeavor. The paradox here is powerful. What appears to others as a sudden emergence is actually the result of protected, consistent development beneath the surface. The most fascinating aspect of this approach is how it transforms your relationship with criticism and doubt. When you maintain strategic privacy around your developing vision, you're not just protecting it from external judgment. You're creating space for your own conviction to strengthen. This internal clarity becomes an unshakable foundation that remains steady even when your work is eventually exposed to the world. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring one of the most challenging aspects of this entire approach, recognizing that envy exists even within your closest circles. This isn't a pessimistic view of humanity, but a compassionate recognition of human nature that allows you to protect both your dreams and your relationships simultaneously. Share sacred space in the comments if you understand the importance of creating a protected environment where your vision can develop naturally before being exposed to the world. The counterintuitive relationship between patience and timing reveals one of the most challenging aspects of this entire approach, recognizing that envy exists even within your closest circles. This isn't a pessimistic view of humanity, it's a compassionate recognition of human nature that allows you to protect both your dreams and your relationships simultaneously. What makes this reality particularly difficult to navigate is that the resistance you encounter from friends and family isn't typically malicious. It's an unconscious response to the discomfort your evolution creates within them. When you commit to significant growth, you implicitly challenge the narratives others have constructed about their own limitations. Your determination to write that book makes them confront why they haven't written theirs. Your discipline in transforming your health highlights their decisions to remain comfortable. This revelation transformed my understanding of why seemingly supportive people sometimes respond with subtle discouragement. Behind their cautious, be realistic advice often lies an unspoken fear. If you succeed, what does that say about my decision not to try? This insight isn't meant to create suspicion, but to foster compassion both for others and for your own journey of manifestation. By recognizing this pattern, you can make a profound decision to protect your aspirations from well-meaning but limiting influences while maintaining loving relationships. This isn't about isolation, it's about discernment. You can love people deeply without exposing your most vulnerable creations to their unconscious resistance. This boundary setting represents emotional intelligence rather than distrust. This understanding leads directly to one of the most practical insights about the mechanics of achievement. While others around you are talking, planning, announcing, and explaining, you must be quietly building. The stark distinction between success and failure often comes down to this simple allocation of time and energy. The hours others spend discussing what they'll do someday are the exact same hours you can invest in actual creation. What makes this difference in focus so powerful is how dramatically it compounds over time. A small daily redirection of energy, from explanation to execution, creates an exponential divergence in results after months and years. This mathematical reality explains why people on seemingly similar paths can end up in completely different destinations. Behind the scenes of every remarkable achievement is this consistent pattern of chosen focus. While conversations about potential swirled around them, the achievers simply continued building. They understood that the energy consumed in discussing a vision is precisely the energy needed to manifest it. This isn't about never sharing, it's about strategic timing that preserves your creative momentum. The transformation in your own results begins with this same decision to convert talking time into building time. This shift doesn't require dramatic announcements or radical lifestyle changes. It simply means noticing when you're tempted to discuss your plans and instead redirecting that impulse toward tangible progress, however small. This brings us to a fascinating psychological dimension of achievement that few discuss openly: the relationship between external expectations and internal freedom in the creative process. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring the psychological liberation that comes from focusing on results rather than approval. When you commit to manifesting your vision rather than explaining it, you position yourself to transcend the very emotions that might have derailed you earlier in the journey: doubt, insecurity, and the need for constant validation. Type "silent builder" in the comments if you've recognized how the hours others spend talking about their plans could be the exact same hours you invest in actually creating something remarkable. The psychological liberation that comes from focusing on results rather than approval creates a powerful dynamic that few fully appreciate. When you commit to manifesting your vision rather than explaining it, you position yourself to transcend the very emotions that might have derailed you earlier in the journey. This is because results possess a unique quality that nothing else shares. They speak a universal language that silences even the most determined critics. Despite our society's endless fascination with potential and promise, execution remains the only currency that commands genuine respect. You can discuss your capabilities, outline your brilliant plans, and describe your extraordinary vision, but without tangible results, these remain merely interesting conversations rather than consequential realities. What many don't realize is that the gap between capability and accomplishment is bridged by one thing alone: persistent execution. This isn't just philosophical, it's practical. Potential without production ultimately earns dismissal rather than admiration. The world quickly tires of unfulfilled promises, no matter how eloquently they're articulated. The transformation in your results begins when you internalize this fundamental truth. Talking about what you'll do someday creates an illusion of progress that actually moves you further from your goal. By redirecting that same energy into actual creation, however small or imperfect, you begin a momentum of genuine achievement that compounds over time. This mindset shift represents one of the most profound decisions available to anyone seeking meaningful impact. Rather than seeking the temporary high of premature recognition, you commit to the deeper satisfaction that comes only from actual completion. The counterintuitive revelation here is that this patience with disclosure actually accelerates rather than impedes your ultimate progress. When you finally do reveal your work, it arrives fully formed, polished by the silence that protected its development, commanding attention through its completeness rather than its promise. No amount of jealousy, skepticism, or negativity can diminish truly exceptional achievement once it stands completed. This isn't theoretical, it's a practical reality I've witnessed repeatedly. The same people who might have questioned, doubted, or even subtly undermined your vision during its development often become its most vocal admirers once it materializes. Not because they've fundamentally changed, but because tangible success forces a recalibration of their perception. Let silence be your armor and discipline your weapon. This powerful combination creates an absolutely unbeatable approach to manifesting any vision. Silence functions as armor by shielding your developing work from premature judgment, criticism, and the subtle energy drain of constant explanation. Meanwhile, discipline serves as your weapon, the consistent, focused action that steadily transforms vision into reality regardless of external validation. By protecting your plans from unnecessary exposure while steadily advancing through disciplined work, you establish optimal conditions for exceptional success. This approach isn't about permanent secrecy, it's about intentional timing. The revelation comes not during conception or development, but upon completion, when your work can speak for itself with undeniable power. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring the unique advantage that emerges when you work consistently in silence. There's a special kind of confidence that develops when you've been quietly building something exceptional while others have been merely talking about their intentions. A quiet knowing that becomes a foundation for achievement nothing can shake. Type silence and discipline in the comments if you recognize how these two forces, when combined, create an unbeatable approach to achieving your most significant goals. If you've made it this far with me, you've already demonstrated something powerful about yourself. You're someone who values substance over show, who understands that the deepest transformations often happen in silence before they're revealed to the world. You're part of a smaller, more focused community of builders rather than talkers. I'd love for us to continue this journey together. If the ideas we've explored today resonated with you, tap that subscribe button so we can keep exploring these deeper principles of achievement and personal transformation. The channel is filled with content designed specifically for people like you who are serious about manifesting their vision rather than just discussing it. If this message found you at exactly the right moment, leave. Silent Achiever in the comments below. I read every comment, and I'm genuinely curious about how these principles are showing up in your own journey of creation. And if you found value in what we've discussed today, a simple like goes a remarkably long way in helping others discover these ideas too. It's a small action that creates ripples of impact for fellow creators seeking this same understanding. There's a video right here that explores how to maintain this discipline of silence even when facing intense pressure to explain yourself prematurely. Click and continue with me over there as we go even deeper into mastering the art of strategic revelation. Until next time, remember, let silence be your armor, discipline your weapon, and results your voice.